Looking forward to retirement, by the way, is one of life's biggest joys. But once you actually get there, there's often a fear that you might run out of money, and that can keep a lot of people up at night. And so how do you make sure that your savings last as long as you do? A lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about that. Here with some practical real-life tips is money and business expert Derrick Kinney to talk more about this. Derrick, this is a big deal for a lot of folks. They put a lot of thoughts, a lot of sleepless nights into this. What is the biggest reason that retirees end up running out of money?
Jason, this is a hot button issue for people retired and those about to be retired. The number one reason they run out of money is because they spend too much at the beginning. And listen, it's not really their fault, because what they think is that, hey, if the market or my investments earn 10%, then I can live on 10%. And so people assume that whatever the stock market does is what they can live on. The problem is they build a lifestyle up in years where the market goes down or loses value. That's when they lose money. So the secret, if people take away one thing from our interview today, don't spend a lot of money when you first get retired. Build up to that, but spend the least amount you can to let that money last as long as you live.
Yeah, you want to string it along for sure. Keep some of that in there for a rainy day for sure. Now, if someone is just a few years away from retiring, Derrick, what would you say is the first move that they should be making right now as they're, sort of getting ready to get there?
Well, listen, if you scroll social media, you even watch other experts like myself, everybody has sort of a rule of thumb of here's how much you'll need to live on. And the only way to truly know how much you really need is to practice living a retirement budget. This is the one thing, when I built my business over 25 years, that guaranteed we would know exactly how much each of our clients would need to be able to retire. So I would tell people is, look, ideally a couple years before, live on what you think you need. For example, if you feel like you need, let's say, $5,000 a month, some of my clients would have us direct deposit back to them into their bank account, and even $5,000. That way, it was though they were actually already retired, they could test it. Jason, here was the shocking discovery. Many people realized they could actually live on that, and it allowed them to retire earlier, which dramatically reduced their stress financially.
Interesting, and maybe their mental stress as well. And it's a good way of doing things to make sure that you can do it ahead of time while you're still not quite there yet. I'd like to ask you about somebody now who, let's say, is already retired. They've already gotten there, but they're worried right now about rising costs, or those, that sticky inflation out there, or the rocky stock market that we've seen lately. Derrick, what do you tell those folks?
Well, first of all, it all comes down to spending right now. And keep in mind the price of eggs, or do I go on a vacation? They're about the same cost these days, right? And it's important to look at wants versus needs, required versus optional spending. And you want to make some closer cuts. If you feel like, look, we actually are slightly overspending the income that we're getting in, now is the time to cut back as quickly as possible. And again, you don't want to cut all the joy out of your life, but if there's things that can cost you money that you can save on, we talk a lot about capture and keep, calling those insurance company, the cell phone company, homeowners insurance company, your cable company, letting them know, look, I'm considering changing. Can you give me a discount to keep me as a customer? All of those tactics that are proven to save money, you want to do those on a regular basis, because every dollar counts when you're retired.
All right, let's finish with mistakes. We love to talk about these because they teach us really well. What's the biggest money mistake that retirees make, and how do they avoid making that mistake, Derrick?
Well, it's human nature that so many people hear about other people making the easy money, and it sounds so easy that surely they want to do the same thing. But retirement is not like Las Vegas. You don't want to give the wheel a spin. And the biggest number one mistake I find people make is they take too much risk to make back what they've lost, or they take too much risk to try to make more money so they won't run out of it down the road. And when they do that, oftentimes it's like a double punch of the stomach. They lose money, they make a mistake, and now they can't recover that. And now they've got to go back to work when they're retired, and it's typically not the time you want to go back to work.
Oh yeah, having to go back once you've already gotten to the promised land. That is difficult for sure. You want to avoid that. Derrick, thanks so much for taking the time. He froze up there at the end, but we got all the good stuff in there before he did. Our thanks again to Derrick Kinney today.